overreaching and arming more and more of these guys. I mean, you're seeing the militarization of our government here. You got the slack seat going wrong, you got a SWAT team in the front door of your small business, even if you're like an auto body shop that might be accused of fraud. Why does it take 8 guys with guns to come in and look in your files? It's really overbearing and overreach. In this particular situation here, that if the hearing already isn't being scheduled by Chairman Bishop, then we'll be pushing for it as soon as we get back to say, why don't we bring these BLM people in here and talk about what is their policy on grazing, and when did it happen that they actually got to take over the vast majority of the land mass in Nevada? Did the state actually cede that to them? Did they voluntarily do it? Is the government just, again, the federal level, take that and want to exert their influence on it? Is the land being managed well by doing this? Cattle grazing actually, by the most part, has a positive effect.
Even on the desert
They don't even step on the tortoise.
Yes.
They're very good at dancing around it, from my understanding.
We've got an exemption for that.
The cattle, there's been a study years ago down there, the environmentalist that actually did the study, that the tortoise thrived, his numbers were the highest back in World War I, I believe, when the cattle were almost eating themselves to death out there. But they were packing the food and the water to the tortoise, and he thrived. And this guy, he had test plots where he took them away, they didn't do as good. Put them back, they did better. So the tortoise shouldn't be in this picture, I don't know why he didn't pay his fees. I really don't agree with the guy myself, but the tortoise shouldn't be part of this deal that they brought in.
Neither should the solar panels or China or the brothers.
Yeah, there you go.
No.
Yeah, so that's what really is dirty and stinky about it.
Yeah,
A lot of
solar
it.
panels would probably be more detrimental to
Well, the stories on solar panels now, when you have these mass installations here that cover acres and acres, is that there's becoming a bird kill over that. Not windmills that, you can see how they chop them up, but the birds are flying over these mass arrays, and all the reflection on that, the bird from here, he starts out raw and he's well done by the time he gets So
Microwave.
let's get back to energy production. What does the best on energy production? It's the fuels that we have that can produce mass amounts of electricity in a small, compact plant of some type.
Hydroelectric.
So that means the great
Yeah,
success we've
babies.
had in this nation of hydraulic fracturing. They still haven't shown that there's been anything wrong with how that's been used, with, somehow affecting flame coming out of people's faucets. That's already a condition of gas somehow in anything. So there's just straw dogs are coming up with on the negative side of fracturing. Yet here's California State Legislature moving in a direction of saying we're going to ban this. So California, once again, another economic and energy disadvantage. So low-cost natural gas has actually made the U.S. attractive to like European manufacturing concerns because their cost of energy has dropped significantly. That they're actually thinking about locating plants over here because they have this renewable energy mandate in Europe, Germany, places like that, where they have to get, 50 or even higher percent has to come from the so-called renewables. Why don't our renewables focus on something that we really have a problem with? And that would be disposing of biomass out of our forested area. If we want to have one renewable that would really do the most good for our public lands and for fire safety and for the whole gamut, if we invested in the biomass production, electricity production, that would do the most to help us. The solar panels, we can all go get them and enjoy a nice subsidy to put them in, but it doesn't work at all without the subsidy incentives that they put in to do the solar. Same thing goes with the wind. If you want to have renewable, you need hydro, you need biomass, you need geothermal, and those are the ones that really work the best. So our real big sources of energy come more along the lines of hydro, yes, I'll say nuclear, when done correctly, not building it on the beach.
Was
On a
Andrea
fault.
fault?
On a fault.
So, in the clean coal. I mean, the president has exerted his anti-coal mandates, and there are more and more of them shutting down. When the country was 40+% operated on coal at the beginning of the president's terms, and that's going away, you can see how that's going to negatively affect the areas that are still reliant upon coal in the country. So why don't we allow the technology to develop and get better on that portion that will remain coal, because it's so plentiful for us.
Everything that you have talked about is anti-American, anti-productive, everything that will help collapse our country and destroy it. If you stand back and you look at every issue, energy, health care, economy, regulation, morality, everything this administration has done has contributed to the collapse or the degradation of our country.
I wish I could point to other things. I wish I could say, like, cash for clunkers was a great idea, or, other things that have been innovated here. And, there's some people that say TARP had some level of success, I mean, does Dodd-Frank, I can't point to them, honestly, but I'm a lot more of a free market, liberty type person. And so it's hard to point at successes there if you're trying to be charitable. And what you say is something I agree a heck of a lot with, is that the speed with which our core values and the strength and success of our country has been degraded is really just going up warp 9 the last few years. And how does anybody think that's successful? Try to be as objective as possible. The model that's out here, how is that going to be successful long term? We need to invest here and not exporting all our jobs. The Philippines, there's people in Manila that are processing VA claims now. It takes 2 months when you have a VA claim almost ready to go. They have to scan it, and so they ship it off to Minnesota. It takes 2 months to get your scanned paperwork back, and so you've waited 2 more months to get what should be yours from your claim when they finally awarded it to you. This is not a model for success, and I don't want to just stand here and bash things, but why do you give something that's been so irresponsible even more responsibility, such as our healthcare system has more? You downsize it. If your kids can't handle it, then you say, okay, we're going to stay home and clean your room, and then we'll let you start having privileges once again when you've exhibited a little more maturity as to how you're going to handle your time. And our federal government needs time out.
Well,
He's a good whip.
We
want to avoid a confrontation with the BLM. We don't want anything to happen like Contraville in Texas. It's a good example of what can happen there soon. The
New
BLM
Mexico is getting ready to get into it with the U.S. Forest Service too.
Oh.
It's happening all over again.
Nice. Well, the BLM currently manages 48% of California land. How do we get the land back? If we manage our own land, then basically we're firing them. Okay.
Well, starting in 2017, when hopefully there's a new regime in place, we need to start figuring out ways to deed federal land back to the states or to private enterprise that would like to bid upon it. When you have a fire, when you have forest lands, you can fly over that, as I have, and see the checkerboard of, privately held land and federally held land.
Right.
It's obvious which one is which, especially if there's been a fire through there in recent years. Let's say a fire that happened 3 to 5 years previously. You can see the privately owned land, which is an asset to them, which is a working land, has been cleared up and replanted. You can now see small trees growing in. You look next door to the bad neighbor that is federally owned land, and you see the same snags, the brush, all the junk is still there, probably very low.
So you can't get in.
Probably a gate on it, yes. So it's waiting to become the next insect-infested tinderbox that's going to blow over onto the private land.
Right.
And so does the private landowner get to sue the federal government for what they caused? What happens oppositely, like if an accident happens on private land and the fire should have to get over to the unmanaged federal land, they get to sue for hundreds of millions of dollars over their own mismanagement. I mean, you know, people, accidents happen, so maybe a fire starts. Is it really worth that they have?
So
It's so
why
frustrating.
wasn't California represented in the Utah meeting trying to get back the land?
The Utah meeting, that was a group of state legislators, as I recall. I think Mike Lee stopped by at that, if I'm not mistaken, to wrestle this. I mean, ask your state reps. Who do you call them?
Ryan Valley.
Well, your state reps here in this county are Senator Ted Gaines and Assemblyman Brian Dolly. And so I'm not casting judgment on them on going or not going to that particular meeting, but I know that we would probably be in pretty strong agreement on that the ownership by government of these lands is not a successful outcome. Federal government lands, it's time and time and time again. What are you guys doing? Our forested lands, BLM, I mean, the grazing, we're battling over grazing permits, where the grazing, the amount is going down each year that's allowed. And grazing is a positive thing. You know, when we have the recent rains here, you get an additional growth there that is good. We're glad to have the rain, but we're glad to have the feed, but if it's not being fed off, does that now become the fire starter for everything else? So it's a good partnership we have with it, but no, it might disturb the snail darter or the tortoise and this and that. We're on the losing end of a lot of environmental nonsense these days. What it comes back to is that the American public, the California public, has to stand up and say enough is enough of this and tell their legislators, not just us, who we hear you, but their urban ones. Why is the cost of everything too high? Why are the jobs, why is there so much unemployment in California? Why is it now that more and more of my paycheck is going to unemployment instead of letting those poor guys and gals that live in the rural area access the resources that makes them not be unemployed anymore? I mean, the ripple effect goes all the way through both directions, urban to rural and rural to urban. And this is what people need to understand.
When do you see the Republican Party coming together with a single message? Or do you see that already happening now? And a lot of infighting within the Republican Party, the Tea Party, and
He's asking about when will the Republican Party come together with a single message or a focused one, or maybe combine with the Tea Party. You know, we're a pretty independent bunch. We're not used to being herded into one set of thought, told what to do in lockstep. And so that's what makes us maybe a little bit different. We express that. But what you're saying is important, like we need to come together on the health care, for example, before, too far into the campaign season, not just because it's a campaign issue, but because it's important to show the public that we have an idea and a plan and one that would work and one that would restore their choices and what they used to have. And so let's get focused. I'm hoping that we utilize Dr. Ben Carson as one of our spokespeople with that. But the ideas are fairly simple. They're not complicated, they're not fancy. It is individual choice and freedom. It's things that cause a strong economy, not what we have. And this is the opposite of what our federal government and our state government, for that matter, has been doing. So why doesn't people want to embrace that message? That's the big thing. And so a lot of them are embracing the idea of the state of Jefferson. What is that about? It's about that same spirit of an independence that the people that embrace that see and desire. It's about the idea that we do things a little bit differently here than they do in Santa Monica and Golden Gate Park. For the folks that want to continue to have unabated mountain lions and introduce gray wolves, then let's donate some of them to their areas.
Downtown Santa Monica.
So for people that are trying to get the gray wolf enlisted as endangered or threatened or what have you, and come up with a wolf plan as your California Department of Fish and Game, or Fish and Wildlife, as they call themselves now, just big game. They're working on this wolf management plan. What wolf? What management?
Oh, our.
They're spending a lot of time and effort in having meetings in Fortuna and Davis and Santa Barbara or someplace like that to talk about wolves. How come they're not having all of them up here in the affected area?
Well, I heard that they're released in Siskiyou County already, that there have been sightings of wolves in Siskiyou County. So
You hear-
maybe that's why they're having those meetings.
You hear about sightings, you hear about funny business, it's not officially, oh, you know, we're not even going to introduce them. We just want to make sure in case they show up, that we have a plan in place
Right.
to manage them, which means that you have no options if they're standing on your front porch. They actually said in one of the meetings, I wasn't at it, but Aaron was from my staff, that you wouldn't want to do things to worry the wolf or cause the wolf to have to expend calories in getting it away. Yeah, calories. In addition to the inability to control it, like if it's mauling your livestock or even chasing after you, you have to be in full fear for your life with it, like in full leap before you can pull a gun on that, is the way they're looking at this, because it's so hyper protected. Same time they're doing this here federally, and I'm going to push for this as well. Already signed on to a letter sponsoring to have the wolf delisted nationally, because they're plentiful, more plentiful than people can stand in places like Yellowstone and the Midwest, upper Midwestern states in Canada. There's plenty of wolf. The animal itself is not endangered. There's plenty of them in existence, but our arbitrators of where they need to go say, well, we need to have at least 10 in Siskiyou County, at least 10 in Shasta County, it needs to be 10 in downtown Reading, it needs to be 10 in Red Bluff, and 5 in Susanville, otherwise the Susanville gray wolf is endangered because there's 0. That seems to be the logic. It's nonsense, certainly.
Going back to the public lands, and you're on the appropriations committee, what's the possibility of making some legislation where we don't pay for these lawsuits against the federal government? Like when the Forest Service wants to have a timber sale, and they get sued, and we end up paying the law fees for the environmentalist groups?
There's something called the Equal Access to Justice Act, is something that came into place and has made that even worse.
But it's
So
fraud.
many people have advocated for years to have a loser pays system of lawsuits, where you bring some frivolous lawsuit and you're beaten in court, you're going to write the check to the winners and fully compensate the other side. This is something that the trial lawyers have been fully entrenched against forever and ever. And I don't understand why previous administrations or majorities haven't gotten that done. If I'm given that chance, we'll press that to the best degree we can, because I'm tired of paying for this. I'm tired of every time there's a salvage, just timber salvage after a fire. It would seem to be the most logical thing in the world is that before the last fire truck leaves the field, that you've got a plan in place and you're heading out there to start logging while you can get the value out of it before it all turns blue or gets bug infested and you can't get any value out of it. You can recover the value and help pay for the recovery of that land. No, we have to sue over it. You're like, wow, we never heard of salvaging timber before. We better study it for 3 years. How maddening is it? How do we beat this? It takes elections to do this. I'm as equally, maybe greater frustrated than you are with this. And when are all of you, I'm not blaming blame here, when is the American people going to get mad enough and say, we demand you guys change this? Of all the legislators it takes, the majority it takes to actually pass it. There's at least 40% of us that are raring to go.
Yeah, but then we'll call sheriff.
You know, one of the things they're doing, they're trying to do about the, not cleaning up the forest after a forest fire is they're trying to put the black-backed woodpecker on the endangered species list because they can only live in burned-out timber. And it's the same thing with the sage grouse. They're trying to, greater sage grouse, they're trying to put him on the endangered species list because the people are ruining taking their habitat or whatever.
The sage
But
grouse
it's the
looks like we're
raven.
going to beat that back until 2015. I
It's
don't
the
know.
raven that's the problem, and he's on the endangered species list.
You
You know
know,
how many ravens are in this county?
Isn't that part
Tons
of,
of them in Yuba City, for example.
isn't this all part of Agenda 21, the Wildlands Project, getting the people off the land? And they're
It sure
using the
seems to be.
EPA to do it?
It sure seems to be that way because they're using every little bit. I mean, they have hundreds of endangered species proposals that All you have to do if you're an environmental organization is petition to that, it gets on a list, and if the federal agencies don't act fast enough, they start suing. And then the federal agencies get so scared of that, they say, well, we better just start listing things to keep them off our back. That's a messed up way to do business, and so we in the Resources Committee have tried to advance legislation to start pushing back on that. We need a Senate that will cooperate with us. Harry Reid, most of these bills go to die in some dusty desk drawer that he has. And so the politics is what you need to help change this as well as the White House that we support too. We're in a pretty bad spot. We can pass these things in my Natural Resources Committee. We can pass a lot of them on the House floor. But then they die in the Senate. And so we got to win a couple of elections with, I won't say partisan or particular candidates, but people that believe in what we're talking about here tonight, by and large, is what it's going to take to turn this around. But in the meantime, I speak about it on C-SPAN once in a while, on the House floor. We speak about it in committee. We come talk with you folks about it here. Getting this network out in front of the American people is what's going to help change the tide, because they need to understand what, again, this is costing them in their lives, in jobs, in the ripple effect, all the different things that it's taken away for their opportunity. All this nonsense is hurting them. Does that make sense?
You know, it seems like everything is designed, all of Obama's policies are designed to hurt the middle class. Because it's not hurting the super wealthy. And, well, for instance, the seniors got a 1.3% increase in their benefits, their cost of living benefits, whereas the food stamp crowd got over a 30% increase. It's designed to create a permanent underclass.
Was during a period of time on the so-called stimulus package there that expired, and when it expired, food stamps was here, went up for a while, and back down. When it went back down again, the caterwauling, or like you made cuts, like we just didn't keep up the temporary bump and increase.
But it just seems like everything's designed to hurt the middle class. You know, the high cost of fuel.
I don't know what it is designed to do back there, so we just got to keep battling, and that's what we're facing. So we've about reached our time here tonight, and I would like to end with the way that maybe should have done in the beginning, due to getting started here, but we didn't salute our flag. Would you mind joining with me as we salute the flag and walk out?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is our time we had in the hall floor here tonight, and so I think that's actually maybe a good way to go charging out of here and remember and be inspired to what America was and is supposed to be. That's what I fight for every day in the Congress as your representative, and so your input, your support, your communicating and networking with the people you know is all very important to me. So thank you for filling out the cards tonight. Thank you for your participation, spending time with us. Thank you all. God bless you.
Well, thank you for coming.
Just